Hello, friends, and welcome to the Bikes for Death podcast. As always, my name is Patrick, and I am your host. I'm excited to bring you today's episode with Maxwell Johnston. He created a new route in Texas called the Hill Country Route because it's in the Hill Country, and it's a route, and you can ride your bike on it. And that's what we did. Almost as immediately whenever I saw it put on bikepacking.com, I'm very familiar with the area, and also Maxwell is a very good photographer in my opinion. I really like his style of photography, and so his pictures really jumped off the page, and partially I wanted to have him show me around the route, give me a personal tour, and talk to me about why he created the route and how and all the things. And I also wanted to kind of pick his brain about photography. I do appreciate him taking the time to give me a guided tour. It was really great, and I did get some good photography tips. And the route itself is truly incredible. The roads are beautiful, and the camping was great, and the food was great. And we are going to talk about it all on this podcast, so I'm not going to get too into the weeds right there with that. But I would like to go on to say that we tried something new on this episode, and sometimes when you try something new, you learn a lot, and this was definitely a learning opportunity for me. The idea here was that we would each be mic'd up while we rode our bikes and do a portion of the interview while we were riding. And I like the concept, but I definitely need to dial in the audio portion of it, and there's some other tweaks that I definitely need to make. So anyways, my apology to you, the listener, and to Maxwell. I hope it doesn't detract from this episode too much. Whenever you try something new, it doesn't always go exactly the way you wanted it to, but it's always a learning experience, and I promise that next time if I try a format like this, it'll be better. One other note about this episode, I did not know this going in, but Maxwell is a recovering addict from alcohol and drug abuse. And that's something that I also have a relationship with, and we actually kind of shared a lot of commonalities. And so during this conversation, we actually have a fairly heady conversation about drug and substance abuse, as well as recovery, which is something that Maxwell is very passionate about. And I know that this is something that almost everybody has been touched with in their lives, either directly or indirectly. So it doesn't exactly go with the overall theme of the route. So if that's not what you're here for, that's totally fine. You can skip that part. But for those that are interested, I hope that you will get value out of that. And I certainly appreciate Maxwell opening up and sharing his experiences. It's always the hope that when you do, that somebody out there needs to hear it and it will do good. All right. Well, before we get to the episode, let us thank our newest sustaining members of the Bikes for Death podcast. You may have heard that I'm seeking employment as the full-time host of the Bikes for Death podcast. Over the last few years, I've been doing this in my spare time between kids and my other job, and I'm ready to step up and ask you to hire me to be the full-time host of the podcast. Ever since we started this initiative, the response has been absolutely insane, to the point where I'm like, holy shit, this might be happening a little bit sooner and a little bit faster than I expected. And I don't know, it could be a reality. It's a weird thing because like part of me is like getting really excited because you're about to hear this list of names that I'm about to read. Y'all have just been stepping up big time. And so I'm thinking, oh shit, I might be actually quitting my job and doing this full time. So I'm kind of like mentally preparing for that, but at the same time trying not to like get too excited. And I don't know. It's fun though. It's fun. I like it, and I appreciate all of y'all. So let's get right to the shout outs. This week's newest sustaining members are Corey Colin, Adam Z, Eric Brunn, Jeff Sapp, Anthony Roach, Nate Lehman, Rachel Clayton, Stephen Rickards. I believe it's Rickards and not Richards. I hope I got that right. Oh, the next one's going to be a challenge. All right, the next one is Avanish Ignatis. Avanish Ignatus, Daniel Link, and the Eggman Cometh. Heck yeah. We also have Claire Panacea, who is going to be one of my upcoming guests. I just interviewed her while I was up in Oklahoma. So thank you, Claire, for becoming a patron. We also have David Nichols. And the next one, we have someone from Estonia. Wow, all the way from Estonia. Tonu Tunnel. Hopefully I got that one right. Again, if y'all ever want me to pronounce your name correctly, you can always send an audio file of your pronunciation to bikes@bikesfordeath.com. And I always try to get the names right. Okay, and continuing on. We're almost there. Austin Shaw, Arturo Lopez, Claire Richard, Adam Coas. Oh, how do you say that last name? Adam Coas? Okay. Sorry about that, Adam. And John Fernandez. Okay. That's everybody. If you weren't counting, that's 19 new patrons. And I also want to just give a quick shout out to 2 patrons who increased their pledges, and they are Damiana Day and Tim Nipper. So thank you all for increasing your pledges so much. Seriously, thank you to all the patrons, and everybody who is stepping up to making this my full-time job. Seriously, how cool would that be? All right, and one other note about Patreon. The new patron podcast, the Bikes for Death After Party. The first episode was with Dr. Seth Wood. I interviewed him live in Stillwater, Oklahoma at District Bicycles, and we had patrons interacting in real time. It was freaking awesome. If you missed that, if you weren't a patron, anytime you sign up as a patron, you'll have access to all the archived old episodes. Right now, there's only 2 patron-only podcasts, but the next after party is already in the works with Andrew Honorma. So we're going to be having him come back and talk with patrons directly. It's going to be sick. So please, won't you join us? You know, it only costs $1 a month. And you can give more if you're feeling generous. Find out more over at patreon.com/bikesfordeath. That's it. We did it. Now, without further ado, let's have Miles Arbor take it away with the Bikes for Death theme song.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes or death. Bikes or death. Podcast.
So I'm out here today on the new Texas Hill Country loop that was published on bikepacking.com by route creator extraordinaire. Is that fair? Maxwell Johnston.
That's a little far off. Route creator amateur.
Oh, we got a grasshopper. Okay. Big one. Juicy. Gee, I've never seen a juicy grasshopper.
No,
like
that was huge.
I love it. This is gonna be fun. Yeah, so we're trying something new today. We're gonna try to ride the route. I'm gonna get my first look at it and give everybody kind of an idea what they could expect when they came out here and rode it themselves. Like, what is the Texas Hill Country route? Just give us like an overview of it.
So the Texas Hill Country route is a very beginner-friendly lollipop route that starts at Oxford Ranch Campground right outside of Llano, Texas. So about 80 miles west of Austin. I tried bikepacking for the first time like a year and a half ago, and I based it around like the Castell gravel grind out in Castell, Texas.
Which that route is pretty well known for being like some of the best, if not the best, gravel in Texas, right?
Yeah, it's a 100K race. Of course, they have different variations, but it's a 100K, 2 loop, a north and a south loop. There's a a campground, Life SD campground right on the Llano River in the middle of that, right outside of Castell. I thought it was a good way to test out bikepacking. I was like, man, more people have got to do this. Just looking at all the routes in Texas, there's a big gaping hole in between East Texas with that amount of public land and then West Texas with Big Bend.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to get Central Texas bikepacking on the map. So I connected the Texas Overland route, which is a route that was kind of designed for off-road vehicles from Horseshoe Bay to right outside of Fredericksburg. And then that connects to the Castell gravel grind.
So is it going to get rough?
It won't get too rough. I mean, depends on what your definition of rough is. I mean,
Well, are they maintained gravel roads or is it off-roading roads?
for the most part, they're maintained gravel roads.
Well, that brings up another question. How much of the route is gravel and how much is pavement?
It's pretty close to 50-50. I think it's like a 53-47 split.
Seems like that's everywhere in Texas.
Yeah.
We're on the first hill trying to talk and cresting a major summit here in Texas. We're at, what elevation are we at?
Well, this is actually some of the highest elevation in Central Texas. You're on like the Llano uplift right now. I don't know much about geology, but I know that right at Austin, the coastal plains fault, or it's the Balcones fault, and the coastal plains hits and causes a big elevation gain right now. So for Texas,
We're at 1,437 feet.
for Texas, this is some decent elevation.
Well, what you really stumbled on, or maybe didn't stumble on, but what you kind of opened up my mind to was that there's a resource of private camp owners, but there's public land, not public land, private land that they've opened up to the public, and we can utilize those to create routes. And I can't tell you how many times I've got an email or a DM on Instagram. Hey man, you know any routes in the hill country? No, but if someone would make one, that'd be great, you know? And one day I'm cruising along bikepacking.com and there you are, Texas Hill Country Loop. So I think it was just smart to shift the focus away from only utilizing the public land and the public, campsites. But yeah, bring in those private held land and utilize those. And did you see that there's a grave site on your route for, I forget his name right now, Lehman, Harold Lehman maybe, who was captured at like 8 years old or 12 years old and lived with the Cherokees for like 8 years, something like that. And his gravesite is on your route.
I think I've heard that story. I didn't know the gravesite was on the route.
So I got it marked so we can go take a look at it today.
That's
It's at
badass.
like mile 22. Go find his gravesite. And, it's fun if you got a route like this to learn some of the cultural history or social history or whatever that comes along with it. Even the terrain.
Yeah.
Woo, downhill.
Yeah, buddy.
I'll talk to you at the bottom. Woo! Yeah! Oh, baby. Bye. Woo, woo, woo. Hope there's not a car coming. So, where are you from?
Well, Austin majority of my life.
Yeah.
I was born in Huntsville, Texas, and then I moved to Florida for about 5 years, and then my dad got really sick, so we came back to Central Texas to be closer to family, and so we've been in Austin since I was 5 years old.
I gotcha. Yeah, so this is pretty close to home for you now then.
Yeah. Yep.
For people who aren't familiar with the Texas Hill Country, scenically, what will they see?
It's going to be rocky. There's going to be a combination of limestone and granite. You're going to see a lot of plants that you would typically associate with the desert. So yucca plants, prickly pear cactus, And then in the spring, you got these beautiful wildflowers that we're seeing on the ride today.
Yeah.
But
I think the wildflowers are worth mentioning. This area is actually known for its wildflower viewing. Are you familiar with the Willow City Loop?
yeah, the Willow City Loop is a little south of where we are right now.
Okay. So I was going to ask if this intersects with that at any point.
It comes really close.
Yeah. But we're in that same geographical area where that loop, I don't know if you know, is rated like one of the top 20 loops in the country for cycling. I take issue with that because I think if you've been there in the peak of wildflower season, it's like littered with people and cars, and I don't think they're looking for cyclists.
Yeah.
But it is really beautiful.
It is really
Unfortunately, the secret got out. All right, we got our first river crossing here. That looks about 10 feet deep, fast moving water. Turn around, don't drown. Oh, luckily my podcasting gear isn't a waterproof thing. Oh no, I activated the squeaky bottom bracket with that river crossing. No, it's gonna be just a full podcast of my bottom bracket. Scrink, scrink, scrink. I didn't think about that. We're just getting started here. We're about 2 miles in probably.
Yep.
So what do we have to look forward to first here? At first we just popped out of the Oxford campground and was on a busy road there for maybe a quarter of a mile or something. You duck off that to some pretty nice farm roads.
Yeah, so the beginning of the route pops off of Oxford Ranch campground and then sends you to the Texas Overland route. You do have to ride about 3/4 of a mile on a pretty busy highway, Texas 16. Of course, it was busier today because it's Memorial Day weekend, but yeah, and then it takes you off a good 10 miles of the Texas Overland route, and then you got about 4 miles of a paved road that cars do. You will see some cars on there, but...
And what mile do we hit that at about?
That's around mile 12 or so.
Okay.
And that's probably my least favorite part of this route. You just got to endure that to connect to the good gravel.
One of those fast-moving, no-shoulder type situations?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm sure you're pretty familiar with those in East Texas.
Well, I guess worth noting for people who aren't as familiar with this area and might come and do the route from other areas. You know, I got to think about it, like, Texas isn't really a destination bikepacking state, unless you consider, Big Bend. Certainly people go to Big Bend. But, a lot of people come and visit Austin because they got family here or for work or, it's a very, it's a big city that draws a lot of people in. And so I can see this route like being pretty heavily used, and maybe by people who don't come from the area. So, I guess it's worth noting that, kind of the whole, premise behind this route and any route you'll find in Texas is just a huge lack of public lands. In your article, it said there was 90%, it's like 95% public or private land. I've heard it's as much as 97%.
Yep.
But anyway you look at it, the best we can do in Texas is just string together whatever we can,
Yeah, my post, it did say 95%, and I think I either got it from an old listing or maybe combined the military, like the federal land that they use for the military as well as the private or the public land. It's interesting because it's a misleading fact when you look at it by percentage base, because we are in the bottom, like 3 states, but total acreage we actually have like in the top 20 just because the state's so big. But majority of that is definitely Big Bend.
Yeah, that's, Big Bend region is 1.3 million acres.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it fits in exactly. And then
it's more than half for sure.
And the public land I have seen in Texas, a lot of it, and Big Bend not included, Sam Houston National Forest or Davy Crockett. I assume Sabine is somewhat similar, but there's private end holdings all throughout. It's actually pretty difficult to really get backcountry. Again, excluding Big Bend. Big Bend's like the one saving grace for Texas bikepacking or really outdoor public spaces for Texas.
No, absolutely. I mean, it is really challenging to find. I mean, you can't even find backpacking really in Texas other than Big Bend.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely challenging to create a route that, you're not going to see cars. You're not going to be on somebody's private land that's not marked private, and that doesn't want you on there. I've run into that issue just east of Austin, actually. I had a route from Lockhart to Palmetto State Park that I'm working on, and ran into an issue with a private road that I was using that I didn't know was private.
Oh, how'd you find out?
Well, a local bike shop, Cycliste, was one of the bike shops that did the Mid-South route
Yeah.
this year. And they used that same road. And when people went out to practice the weekend before, the owner was like, hey, this is a private road. You can't be on this road. But with Ride with GPS, it's a very common road that people ride gravel on. So it's got the red line on their heat map. It's just marked private. Only from one spot. You have to be south heading north. And typically you're north heading south.
Has anyone tried to holler at that landowner and get some access?
Russell from Cycliste has tried to, and I think they're still in conversations with him. And I didn't want to jut in because he had already initiated the conversation, but I think they're hung up a little bit about the liability if someone were to get hurt. Would they be liable?
So these are the types of challenges we face in Texas, and I've ridden in this area, and it's really beautiful. One thing I really like about it that we don't have where I live is here you don't see as many fences. We're riding along. This is a county road, right?
Yep. Yeah, most of the roads we're going to be on.
Yeah, I mean we've been on this road for a few miles and I've only seen one car. Lots of trees, lots of cows, cactus, and like you said, rocky outcroppings everywhere.
Yep.
And today is it's Memorial Day weekend, and the weather's looking pretty good. High of 80, low of 67. So this time of the year in Texas, that's pretty good.
No, we lucked out with weather. We've been getting dumped on with rain past few weeks. The colors are vibrant. A little humidity in the air, but I mean, perfect temperatures for sure for late May.
Oh, just when I said no fences, there's the fence.
But that is part of the reason why I love this route so much, and just coming out a little west of Austin. It's got loose livestock everywhere.
Yeah.
You get cattle walking across the street. You get sometimes even sheep walking across the street. And everybody I don't want to jinx us, but everybody keeps their dogs locked up.
Yeah.
So you don't have dogs chasing you, which is awesome.
Yeah, I was about to say my girlfriend did this route solo, and that was one of the questions I had for you was about the dogs, because she still has probably pretty well healed now, but when she did this route, it was her first solo bikepacking trip, and she still had an open wound from her previous dog attack. She did it and had nothing but great things to say. I think her only disappointment was that she couldn't take a cow home with her. She kept sending me pictures of baby cows, asking if she could bring them home. I don't know what the pet deposit is on a baby cow, but
probably pretty up there. But yeah, that's another thing. If you get to be here during spring, that's calving season, so get to see a lot of calves.
What's your day job?
I'm a general manager of a beverage company. I run the distribution of Clean Cause yerba mate. We sell a sparkling yerba mate. It's organic. It's a highly caffeinated tea from South America.
Oh.
But the cool thing about Clean Cause is that 50% of our profits go to help support recovery from alcoholism and drug addiction.
Oh, wow. How did you gravitate to that naturally because of your past, or was that happenstance?
A little bit of both. There was a lot of luck involved. The founder started this company late 2014, early 2015, got into stores. And then I got sober early 2015, and ex-girlfriend introduced me to the founder. And I became the third employee, and I've really been able to grow with the company. And,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we just hit a huge milestone. We've granted 2,000 sober living scholarships representing over $1 million. So it's a pretty big moment for us, for sure.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
How many people are with the company now?
I think we just passed 50.
Wow. So yeah, you're all really growing. So how old are you?
29.
So you got sober when you're 23?
Yep.
So of course you didn't start drinking until you're 21, right?
Yeah. It was a quick and hard fall. No.
You turned into alcohol really fast. You fell in and out of grace real fast. Sorry.
No, it's a little bit longer than that. I started drinking pretty early on, late middle school.
Oh wow.
When I was about 12 years old.
Oh, we getting on some red dirt here?
Yeah, red dirt.
Oh yeah, this is pretty.
But yeah, so I did quite a bit of drinking for 10, 11 years. You know, somewhere around age 17, alcohol just kind of stopped working, so I started using other harder drugs, cocaine, heroin. And I quit that right before I graduated and just continued drinking. Got into a pretty dark place up at Texas Tech. Got arrested like 5 times before I turned 20.
Man, so we're like we're brothers here. I was 6 times before 20. You were 5 before 21.
Yeah.
Not to brag, but I got you.
I know. I was definitely given a couple breaks where I could have easily been in jail for sure.
I got a big one too, my friend. I got a big one. So did you just hit bottom of the barrel? Or what was the catalyst for change?
So the catalyst for change was my family. I lost my father to cancer when I was 7. And so I've always been really close with my sister and my mom. They were both in Austin and I was in Lubbock. And I had gotten to a pretty dark place using heroin again. And I got fired from my job, which was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I was always usually able to pull it together to work. I've kind of always relied on my work ethic to get me by. This mom and pop company really stuck their neck out multiple times for me, and I just couldn't get my shit together.
So were you one of these functioning heroin users that would go to work high and stuff? Not to call you out, but I mean, I fortunately never did heroin. I don't think I'd ever come back from it, to be honest. You know, some people can't function, right? You need it.
My body definitely reacted to alcohol and heroin differently than most people. I used it when most people, they kind of nod off and become lazy, fall asleep on the couch.
Yeah.
And that was the only really time that I could be functional and be active. So I did use it, but it didn't last too long. It kind of takes over your life pretty quickly. And it's just a really expensive habit, and I couldn't keep it up. I was just miserable. So my mom and sister noticed that, and they came up to Lubbock and asked what was going on. And I definitely broke down and told them everything. I went to detox the next day, and I've been sober ever since.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
How hard was it to go through the detox?
Luckily, they made detoxing from opiates a whole lot easier with
Yeah, you use
Suboxone, methadone.
yeah.
I use Suboxone. It was pretty smooth. I'd say I have a pretty easy sobriety story compared to most.
Yeah. I think mine is easy too. I just I was in jail that 6th time. I was like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
I mean, 20 years old. I think it was December 21st, something like that. It was like right before Christmas. So I was in jail with 50 other dudes on Christmas instead of home with my family.
Jeez.
It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I hear of people getting like hooked on the methadone and stuff, so you didn't have an issue with that. I know you weren't on methadone, you were on the other one, but
Yeah, I would have been if I tried to do it alone. I definitely was unsuccessful at quitting on my own like I did previously when I was in high school.
yeah.
I was just a little too far gone this time.
What's it like?
Coming off of heroin,
Yeah.
well, it's probably about the most miserable thing you can go through by nobody's fault except your own.
Yeah.
So you got restless legs, you got the cold sweats, but you feel really hot, but freezing at the exact same time. Your gastrointestinal is going through like the most intense battle because opiates kind of stop you up. And so now that you're getting that out of your system, you're starting to flow again, but it's the most uncomfortable, miserable place you can be. And all you're thinking about is, why did I do this to myself? But the only solution that you know is using again to make you well.
That's the thing, right? Is you get so sick that you just give in and then you go back to the drug because it's hard to get out of that, right?
It's brutal. I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
What keeps you sober?
Like, how do I stay sober? Or?
Yeah, I mean, like, are you ever tempted, or did it, I mean, my understanding is, right, like, addictive personalities don't go away.
Yeah.
Right?
So there's a lot of work that you have to do to get off of substances, to become not chemically dependent and walk through those like physical and biological temptations and urges and cravings. It's really just, it's wrapped around service, helping other alcoholics get sober. It's wrapped around alcoholics are creatures of habit, and you just got to fill your day up with healthy habits.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, you just get to choose your habits now.
So I figure we just catch people up real quick, let them know where we are, and how far have we gone? 29.2 miles. So we're sitting at this cemetery, Loyal Valley Cemetery. You didn't know this was on the route, huh?
I did not.
So I can't take credit, but someone commented on bikepacking.com on the route there. And he said, if you're interested in some of the, American Indian conflict that took place in that area, there's some great books. And, oh yeah, by the way, there's this grave site of this kid that was captured by Indians. So we are actually in the cemetery on your route. So I guess people who are into that kind of stuff and want to learn more about some Texas history, it's right on your route, man.
Yeah, and there's, I've been told there's also a Native American history museum in Fort Mason that goes into a little bit about the conflict as well. I don't know too much about it, but.
Well, that guy posted a couple books that were good for reading, which books usually are.
Yeah.
And anyway, I meant to actually download one on Audible if they had them on Audible and listen on the way here, and just got busy packing and forgot. But they got a little like Texas history plaque here for this kid who was captured. So I figured I'd just read it real quick. On May 16th, 1870, two of the Lehman children, Herman and Willie, were captured by Apache Indians. Willie was released after 5 days and returned home, but Herman remained with the Apache and Comanche Indians for 8 years. He was returned to his family by soldiers in 1878, but maintained his ties to Quanah Parker's Comanche family, into which he had been adopted for the remainder of his life. So, kind of neat little Texas history there. There's actually more information on Wikipedia that I was reading about. But actually earlier when I was telling you about that route that I created, highlighting some of this history, I think she was 8 years old too. And the Parker clan was one of the first settlers in that area. It's like an hour from where I live. Anyway, so they were settling there, and a raid party came in and took her. It was the girl who got captured, and she fully assimilated into the tribe, eventually went on to marry one of the tribe's people, gave birth to Quanah Parker, who was the last great Cherokee leader, I guess, or war. Obviously I'm not very smart with this kind of stuff, but I've been trying to make an effort to learn, you know.
No, for sure.
Kind of have a better understanding of the history that took place in the places we're riding through. And so, yeah, there's a lot I don't know, but I do like to try to stop at these little places and maybe learn a little bit about the history along the way.
No, absolutely. I think it's important to learn the history of the land, and I think it definitely adds value to the route, and it brings more to your imagination of what it must have been like, hundreds of years ago to go
Yeah,
through
you can
the
almost, well, yeah, you can kind of picture it, especially through this terrain, man. It's beautiful. Actually, let's give a little update so far. How would you describe the scenery over the last, oh gosh, I guess we stopped recording probably at mile 5 or so the last 25 miles?
Yeah, so the terrain towards this section of the route, it really goes through some amazing granite outcroppings, a lot of elevation change for Texas at least, and the flowers this time of year are just unreal. It's been raining a lot. You can tell everything's green. All the flowers are very vibrant, and it's probably the most beautiful time of year I've done this route. Definitely the hottest I've ever done this route.
Yeah.
It's beautiful for sure.
So I feel like it's worth also mentioning. I agree, by the way, with the beauty. I have to comment on that real quick. And even the busiest road, I have to also say, like the busy road that the 4-mile stretch that we were talking about earlier, it wasn't that bad. I mean, one car, I think, passed us in the whole 4 miles, so pretty lightly trafficked. So overall, man, I've been really happy with it, because one of the main things I look for is I like safety, but the other nice thing that comes with safety is there's just no cars, so it's peaceful. You can enjoy it. You don't have to always be looking over your shoulder or whatever. And this is certainly a route so far that has really allowed you to just enjoy the scenery. There's certainly lots of it. We've seen deer. I saw a snake. We had
tons of lizards.
Lizards. That's man, lots of big old fat lizards, man. I love it.
And
the flowers have been insane.
Yeah, and more grasshoppers than I've seen probably in my entire life. Like big, monstrous grasshoppers.
I've never seen grasshoppers that big, ever.
Yeah.
They're huge. So yeah, they're doing well with the rain too, huh?
Yeah.
I guess those grasshoppers are on crack. So yeah, the heat. So we're here Memorial Day weekend, like I mentioned, and so coming up on June, and I was telling you off air that I think this is the last bikepacking trip I'm doing in Texas for a little while. For people who aren't aware of Texas, you just need to be aware of the temperature is. Fortunately for us, there was water on the route in terms of water crossings. So, if we got too overheated, I guess we could dump our head in or get some water if we're running low on water. But if it's dry, what are the resources for water on this route?
When it's dry, the resources are really just the store and the Llano River, and they're basically at the same point in the route. To be safe, I would just plan on bringing all the water that you would need for each day ride. So whatever the temperature says, and plan for more than that, probably 1 liter more, because today we were counting on overcast, and we each packed 2 liters, and I'm already out. Plan for a full day ride. Maybe 3 liters should be sufficient for any time.
Are you out of water?
Yeah, I actually am out of water, but I'll be fine.
I got a half of a liter. Or no, that's just a half a liter.
Yeah.
I've got a half of a liter to spare. So yeah, what do we have? What do we got left? I mean, and the other thing I wanted to mention is it's kind of been rolling terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing too extreme. None of the climbs have been hike-a-bikes by any stretch.
No.
They're all very climbable, and none of them are too sustained, but just nice climbing, nice descents, keeps it interesting, keeps that nice rolling terrain coming, What do we got next coming up?
So next we have Kaiserville Road. In the past, that's where Castell Grind starts. So it's a 10-mile descent to camp. That's what we're about to hit, but the Castell Grind usually starts on that 10 miles. So I've done this route in the past, going up Kaiserville Road, and it's brutal. It's a 10-mile, very sustained, steady climb. It's not anything like you would see in other parts of the western United States, or even Arkansas or the Smokies, but it's a decent climb. So we've got a nice easy coast to camp. Probably stop at the general store, grab a burger and some barbecue.
Not probably, 100%. Yeah. I didn't even pack food.
And maybe catch some live music and sit on the Llano River and set up camp.
Yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to all the things you said. Downhill, food, and river and camp.
Yep.
All those things sound good. I like it so far, man. I'm digging it. I think you're going to get a lot of people out here riding it, but it's hot. Oh, and there's not a lot of trees.
No, it's super exposed.
Yeah, it's pretty exposed. I mean, you're gonna be able to find little trees to get out of the sun, here and there, but it's not well canopied or anything like that. But we've taken a couple little breaks, and we're taking one now underneath a tree. And oh my gosh, dude, it's like it's crazy when you step out from underneath a tree.
Yeah,
it's like 20 degrees hotter instantly.
Yeah, I mean, the route itself isn't too long, so you can power through, and you can start earlier to kind of beat the heat. We started a little later in the day, so I think we caught the most harsh sun. But
yeah, I think maybe we'll leave a little earlier tomorrow.
Yeah, but again, we thought it was going to be overcast, and it's an exposed route. I've done this route in January, and even then it was high of 75 degrees, but the sun it took it out of you. It can take it out of you for sure.
Tomorrow, won't we have that same 10-mile climb coming out?
No, so it's the rest of the loop. So we'll come out a different way.
Okay.
And then once
we'll continue on the loop.
Yep. And then once we hit that little offshoot, we'll finish off the lollipop, and then we'll start double backing. But our first.
But we'll still have to climb out. I mean, if we're going down to the river, we'll still.
Yeah, but
it's just not as. It's a nicer climb.
Yeah, it's like 3 different peaks. So it's like one small climb and then a descent, and then another small climb and a descent. We've actually climbed up quite a bit already, and so we're going down into camp, and so you have to climb less. I guess this is the high point on the route. I see what you're saying. Right.
Now, did you was that strategic whenever you were designing the route to lay it out this way?
So the distances were the main factor. I wanted the first day to be the longest, and then the climb kind of lucked. It just worked out. It would have been a tough choice to say, all right, we're going to do the shorter day first, but end on a descent. I just wanted the longer day to be first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it turned out really well because you're getting your longest day first. You're getting that descent at the end, and then day 2 you're avoiding the climb. So I mean, it all kind of worked out.
Yeah. If you have the legs for it, like I know this for a lot of like road riders, this may not be the best route. They would be wanting some more distance. You could always take the shorter side of the lollipop the first night and then wrap around the north loop, and that's an additional 31 miles. And then you could stop at camp and then come out the other side of the lollipop. So you'd have probably a 50-mile first day and then a 36-mile second day if you wanted the longer route and explore more gravel.
I've talked about this on the recent one I did with Ride with GPS, the episode I did with them. It's like I like to take a route and then maybe add to it or change it or whatever. I mean, routes are great like starting points, and sometimes they're just great the way they are. But like on yours, for example, I remember looking and seeing Enchanted Rock State Park was real close, and I was like, it'd be cool to like add an extra day. And so I created a little route. And actually, what was your feedback on that road?
I mean, it's all paved.
It's all paved, right? Mm-hmm. That's what it was. That's what I thought I remember you saying. So
yeah, I think it would be safe to ride, but it's all paved.
Right. And the other thing, getting into Enchanted Rock State Park is pretty hard to do.
And they don't.
So creating a route around Enchanted State Park isn't a good idea. So I'm not putting that out there as you should have done it this way. I'm just saying, I want to, as an example of when you pull up a route and you're like, oh, what else is around,
Yeah. I mean, Enchanted Rock is beautiful. But they're not keen on cyclists or dogs, really. And when I look for land that I want to explore, is can I ride my bike there, or could I bring my dog there and take him off leash? And
so when you say cyclists, you just mean off trail or on trail? I mean, yeah. So do they not have any cycling trails out there?
Mm-mm.
Wow. Yeah, it's been many years. Last time my first daughter was 2 years old, I think. So it's been 9 years since I've been out there. It's been a minute.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful out there. You can see the stars better than probably any place other than Big Bend and West Texas. But
yeah, the stars are worth it. And Enchanted Rock moans at night?
I've never heard that.
Yeah. So Enchanted Rock, the Indians, if we're talking about the Indians, they, worshipped it, right? They didn't know what it was. They thought it was some kind of god. But at night, it moans. And it's because the rock is cooling. So it all day long it heats up, and then at night, and I don't remember exactly what it is that causes it, but it's been many years since I heard it. But yeah, you can. I googled it not too long ago. I mean, it was still a few years ago, but I was telling someone, and they were like skeptical.
Yeah.
Like, Google it, it's there, and I was right. But yeah, a lot of people don't know that. But I went there on a Boy Scout trip when I was younger. We were rappelling, and that's one of the things that they taught us back then, and just kind of stuck.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't know that.
We live in a weird place, right?
Yeah.
Or an interesting place, and it's fun to explore it. All right, well, I'm getting ready for a burger, man.
Yeah, me too.
What do you think? We got 10 miles downhill. We can get there in 10 minutes.
Yeah. I'd probably say 35, 40. Yeah, I'm definitely ready for a burger.
Burger and swimming in the Llano. Where do you got me here? So we're in camp. Where are we?
We're at Life Festi Campground.
Let's break that down. Life Festa.
Yeah, Life Festi.
Life Festi.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we know where that comes from?
So that's so Randy Life Festi, the owner of all this land. This is I believe it's his nephew's private property here, right on the Llano River, and so they opened up a campground, and Bobette primarily manages it, and she's a really sweet woman. She just opened up this side of the primitive camping for the bikepacking route. This is my first time staying here since she opened it up, and I really like it here. But
well, what was neat, right, is that we know that bikepackers have been coming here. Apparently, they've all been good guests. No one's caused any problems. So good job, bikepackers. Good job. Represent the community well. I told her, I said, this community will be respectful. They'll understand leave no trace. They'll bring all their own stuff, like they're not going to cause any trouble. And she seemed to agree that so far everybody's been doing a good job.
Yeah, it's
so cookies for everybody.
Cookies for everybody. No, it's been awesome. The people that have reached out, that have done the route so far. It's been one of the coolest things that I've been able to contribute to just in general in my life. And now I get to give back to a community and a hobby that has given me so much. So,
man, even we ran into a couple other bike packers, Kurt and, do you remember his name?
I forgot his name.
Gosh damn it, I did too. But he was a very nice guy, and we got to catch up with them at the general store and chat with them for a little bit. But yeah, it was just cool. Like, we showed up at the last campground where we parked to set off this morning, and two other bikepackers are there to ride the route. And then we actually get to the general store. There's like 8 other cyclists there. I don't know if they were on the route or not, exactly what they were doing, but yeah, it's good to see. It's definitely like people are certainly responding to the route. They're using it.
Yeah, it makes me really happy. And when we pulled up, we asked Bobette, has business picked up at all?
Yeah.
And with a big smile on her face, she said it definitely has. So I'm, again, just grateful to be able to give back.
Man, and then she opened up, like you said, this whole primitive area where we're camping right now, and it's so, to try to describe it, we're on the banks of the Llano River, and it's like, I don't know, there's like a little granite outcropping like right in front of us with green grass everywhere and beautiful trees everywhere, plenty of room for hammock campers. And then the sunset put on a hell of a show tonight.
Still putting on a little show over there, but yeah, it definitely lit up.
The route is good, man. It's just so beautiful. I don't know how well we were able to articulate that while we were riding today, but it's worth mentioning, especially this time of year in the spring when the flowers are going and the birds are chirping and all the animals are out. And man, today, like blue skies with huge white puffy clouds. I mean, you just couldn't paint a better picture of a Texas spring day, right?
Yeah, no, we lucked out. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't bring enough water for it. I got a little sunburnt, but as far as beauty, yeah, we lucked out. And the roads were dry, which was surprising. Yeah, it was a beautiful day.
I certainly enjoyed it. I mean, like, for real, I've done a fair share of riding in Texas, and the most beautiful area of Texas, in my opinion, well, Texas is big, but one of the most beautiful places in Texas for me is certainly hill country. And for a lot of people, I mean, this is
just iconic, beautiful Texas hill country out here. But yeah, there's been gravel routes and there's a lot of roads, but no one had put together a bikepacking route until you came along. And I think it's worth, giving you a little bit of credit. You said you had imposter syndrome earlier. And I'm like, I mean, you did this, you put in the time, you took the pictures, you had to submit it twice to bikepacking.com. They have high standards, but I mean, you did it, and now people are able to benefit from that. I mean, not only the cyclist that gets to ride it, but Bobette that hosts this campground, the general store that got more traffic, gets a couple more dollars. I mean, it's cool, dude.
I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah, it's hard to take a whole lot of credit because it is somebody else's race route, and Castell Gravel Grind definitely pieced together some great gravel roads out here, and I really just looked on Google Maps and picked 2 campgrounds and strung them together. But I am really proud of doing that and taking the photos, because it does take, it doesn't take much to capture the beauty out here. But I am really proud of the route overall, and I think I did a decent job at giving everybody some highlights to look forward to and some must knows, and being as prepared as possible.
It's a pretty straightforward route, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very beginner friendly, I'd say, with it. And actually, Kurt, who we ran into earlier that we were just talking about, this is her second ever bikepacking trip. She just bought her bike 2 months ago. She just went whole hog, full tilt all the way in it. So that's so cool. And and she's out here doing it, having the time. I mean, they were grinning ear to ear. They said on the way here, they were just like, falling all over themselves. We just couldn't get over the beauty. And they seemed to, truly be soaking it in.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, I've heard really good things of people enjoying the route, and it is awesome. It's cool to know other people are enjoying the route, and if I didn't piece it together, then they wouldn't have found it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like worth mentioning. Sometimes it maybe doesn't take a whole heck of a lot, and I didn't invent any new roads whenever I've created any route or anything. I mean, the roads have been there. People have ridden them many, many times. I didn't discover anything, but a lot of times it's just, putting it together, like in Texas, where it's hard to find campsites, public land, all these things that we were talking about. I mean, you just pieced it together and put all the information out there. So anybody, I mean, I didn't plan much, I hopped on bikepacking.com yesterday and like, okay, what do I need to know? Yeah. Okay. And I sent you a text or two, and, off we go,
Yep.
And that's kind of the beauty of a route, is it doesn't have to always be this epic thing. And especially in Texas, actually, I guess maybe you talk about because I didn't know this, and I learned this a little while ago, that I guess my Sam Houston tour route is what opened up your idea to actually do this or something like that.
It was, it had a lot to do with your Sam Houston route. I did think bikepacking was supposed to be this multi-day journey that seemed inaccessible to a guy like me in Austin, Texas. And that route came out, and I was like, holy shit, man, this guy's doing it right down the road, only 3 hours from me. I should be able to do something like that here. And I went on Ride with GPS. I searched for gravel rides. I just did keyword gravel with a big radius around Austin, Texas. I found the Castell Gravel Grind. I looked for campsites around that area. I found what I thought was the La Festi campground at the time. And then I learned from the owner that it's Live Festi. Yeah, and then I came out here and I did the 2 north and south routes and tried to post it to bikepacking.com with iPhone photos. Didn't hear anything back from them. And then, the pandemic hit, and the route wasn't created correctly. Like it was 2 loops with the campground in the middle, and it wasn't really a real bikepacking route. So there was, other than bad photos, there was a lot of other reasons why they didn't reach back out. And then I got into photography right when the pandemic hit, in March 2020. And one of the main motivations was to be able to share what I was seeing out on these gravel rides, because I just love the country out here. You see loose livestock. You get to see beautiful sunrises, sunsets. and just long, windy gravel roads. So I started to learn more about photography, and then came back out the next year and ran the same route, took photos, posted it again, and it got accepted. And so that the Sam Houston restaurant tour ignited pretty much my whole journey through bikepacking.
Your whole journey through bikepacking, or just like creating this route?
Through bikepacking. That time that I came out here was my first time bikepacking.
Okay, so like scouting out the route and all that. Okay, interesting. So obviously you were interested in bikepacking, you were following it already, and then you saw the route and you're like, wait a second, we could maybe do, just started looking around and see what you could find.
Yeah. So I knew about bikepacking through a few other mountain biking outlets, because that was all I was doing. I was pretty much just only mountain biking. And
you're one of those.
I was one of those. Yeah,
I was too.
And
I still mountain bike sometimes.
Yeah, and I saw the restaurant tour, and I also took like 3 really big falls mountain biking, jumping, and trying to learn to jump better. So I wanted to get into a different area of cycling. I still loved it, but I wasn't able to progress the way that I wanted to in mountain biking. And then the Sam Houston restaurant tour came out. And I came out here, and I just I wanted like a beginner-friendly route. So I parked my car, and I just didn't touch it the rest of the weekend. So I acted like I was backpacking, or bikepacking. So I did one route, and then came and camped back at the camp spot, and then did the next route, and then came back. And so, in case something did go south, and I didn't, because I was a completely beginner, and I was out here by myself. So in case something did go south, I would have my car to be able to get out. But
did you have any like camping experience and stuff like that before that?
No.
Like, what was the learning curve for you? It seems like a pretty short window from the time like you kind of like, oh, mountain biking. This came on the market.
Well, I mean,
next thing you know, you're like planning routes. You're camping.
Yeah.
It's like,
I had car camping experience, so I camped quite a few times, but nothing, with like small backpacking setups. So I knew the general gist. I knew how to get around, but other than that, I YouTubed a lot of videos, and
I was gonna ask how did you learn how to bike pack? What was your steps? And it sounds like you came out here solo the first time, so it doesn't sound like you had a friend group necessarily that was like educating you. Kind of self-taught, huh?
Yeah, I typically don't like to ask for help, so I'll learn through YouTube videos what I need to know, and kind of obsess on that until I feel prepared enough to try something, and then I try it, and then I learn from my own mistakes and kind of course correct.
Yeah. So how much course correction have you had to do since that first time whenever you started?
Quite a bit, because my passion of photography, it wasn't there during the first time that I tried. So I had a very different setup, as well as I didn't have a sleeping bag that was rated for the the types of nights that I was having. I underestimated the humidity off of the Llano River, even when it was only supposed to get down to 39 degrees. I thought 40-degree quilt would be enough, and it wasn't. Froze my ass off.
Yeah, experiential learning.
Yeah, I've learned what food that I like, what kind of snacks that I like, the eating intervals that I need to follow so I don't crash. Yeah, overall, I'm still very much beginner, so I'm still learning.
Yeah. Well, that's something I wanted to kind of touch on is I mean, anybody can do something. This community is like so fresh in so many ways that there's a lot of opportunities for, this community is just growing so fast. And there's a lot of people that, like Kurt that we saw today, who's like just getting into it. Not everything has to be like an epic route, a route built by a first timer that would be attractive to other first timers makes a lot of sense, rather than I've been on a Cass Gilbert route that was rated as like super duper easy. And I got there and I'm like coming from Texas at no elevation and, whatever other excuse I want to throw out there. But I'm like, bro, this is not like an easy for like a weekend warrior or something, So you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like it kind of it makes sense that you kind of maybe are even in a better position to create a route that would be attractive in that way, right? And then that's the way you've touted the route is kind of, I mean, you describe it as being, I don't know exactly, but relatively laid back, fairly easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not a hard route, and it is difficult to find really challenging routes in Texas, or at least that have majority gravel roads. Yeah, it's a very laid back route, and I think anybody could come and do this if they had enough water. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Temperature and water are a consideration, but I think they always are. Those kind of go without saying. But I think in Texas, maybe we emphasize it a little bit more. Today was pretty sweet. It's great, actually. The sun was a little dialed up more than I like. I'm going to talk to the route creator about that off air. But so tell me a little bit about tomorrow.
Tomorrow's very much similar to today. However, it's a little shorter. We finish the south loop, so we'll be on roughly 15 to 18 miles of new roads, and then we start doubling back towards the end of the Lollipop back to Oxford Ranch. So it's you got a little stretch of road from that goes past the general store where typically you would stop for dinner, where we stopped tonight. So you go past there and then back up another gravel road, and it's pretty much all gravel until you get to that turnoff where that 4 mile
Oh, really?
stretch of road.
Nice. Would you say is it as scenic as day one?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So you're getting the scenery and it's a little easier.
Yeah, instead of a big elevation gain, it's more like 3 separate little peaks.
Sweet. Well, I'm looking forward to it. What time are we rolling out? 9:05.
Yeah, 9:05, 9, as long as it's before 10.
How long do you think it'll take us?
I
Wonder what time we'll get done tomorrow.
think 4 hours is a good bet if we're going to be stopping and taking photos. And
Yeah. And the general store won't be open yet, huh? Not till 10, so we'd have to. But I brought breakfast. All right. So it's worth noting the Castell Grind store. I think most people are probably going to utilize it because it's like part of the route. Do the burgers at the Castell Grind store, general store, are freaking good.
yeah, they're really good. The buns that they use are amazing.
Yeah, like it's a damn good burger. I don't know what else they had there that was an option, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you are a carnivore that enjoys a hamburger, that's one to put on your plate right there. And then put it in your belly, after your mouth, of course. Tell me about your alcoholism while I sit here and sip on some whiskey.
I'd love to. Like the whole story, or just kind of
Let's see.
how it pertains to cycling?
The question I didn't ask earlier that I wanted to know is when did it all begin and why? At some point, it started to become just like fun and stuff, and it became, I'm guessing, an unhealthy chase of just a substance.
Yeah, you bet. I started drinking early on, probably 12 years old. You know, I grew up pretty privileged. I lost my father to cancer when I was 7, and that kind of rippled and affected other areas of my life. You know, I didn't really get along with my stepdad growing up, and when I found alcohol, I didn't really have to deal with anything else. I could just be drunk. Yeah, when most people drink, they feel a little dizzy and feel out of control, but I didn't. It didn't affect me that way. Alcohol affects me differently. I felt in control, and I felt like I could do anything. And for one time, the only time in my life, I felt like I didn't care about anybody else's opinion of myself.
So what's that like for you now, right? I mean, you don't drink alcohol, so is that imbalance or whatever still like? Because something wasn't right, and then alcohol seemed to like fix it for you, you know?
Yep. Yeah, so it definitely had to be replaced with something else. I learned that a lot of my anxiety came from not telling the truth, when I got sober, I started telling the truth. A lot of my relationships didn't really work out because I was extremely selfish. When I became sober, I learned to put other people first, and I learned to be of service and help other alcoholics struggling and helping them get sober. And that became my new way to feel self-worth.
How quickly after, you were talking about that earlier, actually. You said like it was like 8 days. You were like still in rehab and you were able to like almost immediately use what you had learned to the benefit of somebody else. And kind of that was the catalyst that really, I guess, even till today, it still motivates you, huh?
You know, I had to go to a detox facility and inpatient treatment facility as well. In that facility, I was able to help others. You know, I really wanted to get better. I at first only wanted to quit using heroin, and I refused to give up alcohol. And it within like 4 days of me being there, it became very clear that I didn't view alcohol like normal people did, and I couldn't drink successfully. When I learned that, and when I learned other things that helped me get over some anger that I had around losing my father, I was able to, you know, transfer that same knowledge to other people that were going through things. And I saw their reaction, and I saw that it helped them. And I realized for the first time in my life that I could be of service to others and that I had purpose. And I know that may sound a little odd to somebody to not feel like they have purpose, but alcohol and partying and drugs were my only sort of identity. It's how I viewed myself. It's how I thought others viewed me. And it's not how my family viewed me, but it's how I thought everybody viewed me.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to be useful to the world without alcohol and drugs. And that lie got crushed pretty quick. And I've been chasing that feeling ever since.
What kind of like advice and stuff were you like passing on that was having an impact?
In this 12-step program that I'm a member of, you have to take moral inventory of yourself. So you have to go over, you know, all your past relationships, any resentments that you may have, any fears that you have. And one of my biggest resentments that I was kind of embarrassed of having was I was resentful at my father for leaving. You know, he died of cancer. He had no choice. I still felt like he left me. You're supposed to find your part in this resentment. How did you play a role? Typically with resentments, you've either stepped on the toes of others or you've put yourself in a position to be harmed. And you're supposed to find those reasons to help you move past it and provide empathy for the other person. And I was lost. I was lost about this one. I couldn't find my part. And my sponsor just looked at me and goes, "Man, the only part that you played is still harboring this resentment." And that really shook me. I was like, all I have to do is let go of this anger. And it literally fell off me. And I've been able to help young men and even older men that have had the same resentments about fathers that have walked out on them, about fathers that have passed away, with even my sister. You know, I've been able to help people that have had similar resentments and say, hey, even though you didn't play a part in this, it's still your responsibility to let this go because it's not productive to your life. And just being able to share that with other people is so powerful. And to be able to see a light bulb come on in somebody's eyes, it's unreal.
What was it about holding on to that made you feel like you needed to drink or, you know, do drugs and all that? Like, make that connection of like, why was that the piece that allowed the healing to begin?
So that's a great question. I don't know the complexity of it, but the simplest thing that I can find is I didn't think that I was grieving my dad if I had a happy life. Like, I didn't think I was grieving properly if I was able to be happy. And I thought that when you have something that traumatic happen to you, you're supposed to be sad and you're supposed to be angry. And I didn't feel comfortable being sad. And the way that I feel sad and feel fear is I get angry. And that's who I presented to the world because I was so afraid of people knowing that I was afraid. And so I was angry all the time because I didn't think that moving on would celebrate my father. I thought that I was doing him
Yeah, it's almost
service.
like you have this moral obligation to suffer and like carry that, black cloak, or it's like, in some cultures people dress in black for a period of time, and it varies in cultures and stuff. But it's this thing. It's like, we should spend time mourning and paying respect and stuff. And so I think it's almost like a survivor's guilt,
Mm-hmm.
in a way. It's gonna be tough to live with that. And especially, you were how old? 8?
I was 7 when he passed.
7. 7's an extremely, those young years are just so. I'm not a child psychologist, but I have children, so I've read some books and stuff about it. And it's like, you're up until 5, you have so much influence on your children. I mean, it's kind of like when you have the most opportunity to do have the most impact, I think, in their lives. That's what I've read. I can imagine that, getting to be the age of like 7 or 8 is when you really start to probably like look up to your father, and start to develop those like, oh, this is who I want to be when I grow up. And God, and then he's gone. And it's like, well, who do I want to grow up and be like now, and like, how am I going to celebrate his life by like living this awesome life and he's just dead?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to relate.
No, you touched on something really key. I didn't have positive role models. I had my stepfather, which I'm not saying he wasn't a positive role model, but I just refused to put him on that pedestal because of the replacement or whatever an immature kid feels when they're a new dad is supposed to come in. So I started idolizing probably the wrong type of people. I idolized a lot of partiers, a lot of drunks, the Jim Morrisons, Frank Sinatra, George Jones, Ray Charles, like the people that drank a lot. And yeah, I thought that's how a man's supposed to act.
Yeah. Yeah, you pick some maybe not the best role models to I mean, lots of people do it though. It's like, you look at some people and you're like, man, they're wildly successful. I mean, Christopher Hitchens is someone who I've always looked up to. I think he passed away though, right? Yeah, he died. Do you know who he is?
Mm-mm.
He's a brilliant guy, excellent debater. Spent most of his time debating religious zealots and stuff. Like, there'd be auditoriums full of people. It'd be him and some like, priest or something, debating some like high level religious stuff. And anyway, when I was going through my period of like leaving Mormonism and trying to like understand the spiritual world a little bit better, I was introduced to him, or I introduced myself to him, I should say. Brilliant man, eloquent, sharp thinker, quick on his feet, so witty, so you just don't want to go into a battle of words with this man, like it's not a good idea. And complete belligerent alcoholic, and didn't try to hide it, or and I mean, there's lots of examples like that. And so sometimes I think it can be a blurred line of it, and maybe that, and actually maybe that kind of speaks to and segues into like a question I wanted to ask you, is if I know from talking to you today that this is something you're passionate about and you're continuing to be involved in. So, I'm curious to get your thoughts, and maybe you have some, maybe you don't, about how do you identify when you have a problem versus when you can handle your shit, or whatever we want to call it, right? Is there a line in the sand, or?
So there's not. I mean, it's really up to the person. So no other person can tell somebody else that they have a problem. And when it's around alcohol, there is a pretty easy way to do it. And it's just a question. When you control your drinking, are you having fun? And when you are having fun, can you control your drinking?
I'm thinking through that one. When you're having fun, can you control your drinking? I don't understand.
So a lot of alcoholics, I would say most alcoholics, when they're having fun, they can't control, like, it's not fun to control your drinking. Because you physically have to control. If you're an alcoholic that's progressed to a point where they need abstinence and a life of recovery, if you're controlling your drinking, you're not having fun. You're
I understand. You're depriving yourself of the thing that makes you happy. So you're not having a good time. That's yeah. Say that one more time.
Yeah. So it's
I'm still processing it.
Yeah.
I'm slow. I'm a slow learner.
yeah. So it's if you're having fun, can you control your drinking? And if you're controlling your drinking, are you having fun?
Now let's define control your drinking.
Yep.
You start.
Okay. I mean, controlled drinking is where you're not getting blackout drunk at the end of the night, and you're not doing things that you're embarrassed about when you wake up in the next morning.
Okay. I was telling you, I don't have I do have an addictive personality, and I don't have probably the best relationship. I don't know. It's complicated, right? And that's why I'm kind of curious. What I started doing is I do sober or dry January every year, and I've only done it 2 years. But the reason I started it in the beginning is because I do have an addictive personality, because I do have a history with drug abuse and all kinds of stuff. I have, it's an interesting line, right? It's like there's a lot of drugs and things that I won't do. I do drink and marijuana. but I do have this like weird it's my own thing, right? It's like, this is my line. I know what I can and I can't do.
Yeah.
But I also know, and I have to be honest with myself, that, like that year, for example, I'm like, dude, you're drinking a lot. I wasn't doing anything. Like, I mean, you're taking care of all your stuff. I'm not abusing anybody. I'm not acting. I'm not one of these people who gets drunk and like flies off the handle or gets black. So in that way, I think, okay, it's all right, know, but I'm like, oh, well, you're drinking a lot. And so for me, like what I do is I'm like, okay, well, you got to test yourself.
Yep.
Like I just cold turkey, whatever, just no drinking for 30 days. And it wasn't that hard. I was like, I like drinking. I do. I mean, I enjoy it, but it wasn't hard. And I did it again this year. I'm like, okay, not that big of a deal. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Is that a...
Yeah, I mean, again, nobody can speak on anybody else's program, but it from what it sounds like, I wouldn't say that you have an issue with alcohol. Like, because if you're able to draw a line in the sand and not cross it, you're light years ahead of most alcoholics. What brings people to the point of needing recovery is they keep drawing lines in the sand and they keep crossing them. So they have to adjust their lines in the sand.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you want to get technical about it, there's 3 components to alcoholism.
I would love to hear it, actually.
Yeah. So there's one, and this is old school descriptions of it, but there's the mental obsession, which you would compare to at a Mexican restaurant eating one chip. So you only eat one chip, and then what are you thinking about the rest of the time?
Chips.
Other chips.
Yeah.
So that's the mental obsession. Alcoholics, if they have one drop of alcohol or no alcohol, all they're thinking about is their next drink. And then 2 is the physical allergy. Once you put alcohol in your body, your body responds differently. So when most people get dizzy when they've had enough, when most people feel a little out of control and want to stop, alcoholics don't have that. They feel in control. They feel like a superhero, and they want to keep going.
Okay.
And then
interesting. So literally, the biology in your body, when it consumes alcohol and you get quote unquote drunk, you feel that you're in more control and all this. Are you? Are you more functional?
Well, so I mean, it's not
now, obviously, but at that time.
Yeah. So it's all based on tolerance. So alcohol just stopped working for me. So you would find this sweet spot, and when you're a new drinker, the sweet spot's huge. Because your tolerance hasn't adjusted.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, and this is my experience. I'm only speaking on my experience. All of a sudden, you're miserable trying to get to that sweet spot, and then all of a sudden you're blackout and it's like your body is not processing alcohol the way that it used to because your tolerance is so skewed.
Yeah.
And so the only way you can get unmiserable is complete oblivion.
And so you're essentially at some point you just lose the sweet spot altogether.
Yeah.
You just go right past it.
Yeah.
So you go from like maybe feeling like in control and then everything just like blacks out.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. But alcohol, I think, is a very dangerous drug. And I think we don't treat it with the reverence and the care that we should. You know, I mean, we were talking earlier. I mean, drugs should probably be legal, and maybe,
Yep.
I mean, maybe, you know, I don't think alcohol should be illegal. I think grown people should be able to make those choices for
Absolutely.
themselves.
Yeah.
But the fact that alcohol is legal, and, you know, weed and psilocybin and LSD and, you know, in some places are all like, you know, class 1 drugs and all this stuff. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's unreal. I think we'd be a lot better country if we taxed all drugs, made them all legal, and put all that money into treatment for the people that can't use those drugs successfully.
Resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the way you said it earlier. You said, or actually, maybe I was listening to the mayor of Austin on a podcast. He said, yeah, because he was talking about the homeless population.
Hmm.
And I don't remember his exact program, but essentially, you know, it's like, okay, well, now we have money to fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you can complain about drugs and you have this huge war on drugs or whatever. Or like, I don't know, yeah, make it legal, tax the shit out of it.
Yep.
People that want drugs are gonna get them.
Yep.
People that want to be alcoholics, they can do that. You know, I mean, we're not stopping anybody from doing those things. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so painfully obvious. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I think what scares most people, it would get darker. It would be probably 5 to 10 years of like a growing pains, but the end goal would be better for sure. But yeah, there would be quite a few growing pains. I would
What
imagine.
kind of growing pains would you foresee? An uptick in all kinds of drug use and
Yeah.
abuse, and you know, even overdosing and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. But
Maybe, but you know, again, if we had the money to educate people, if we had the money to research the drugs and maybe understand delivering mechanisms better, maybe, you know, limiting the amount people could buy. I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but I'm just saying that we don't know. I think education is huge, right? Like when I was 14 and I started doing drugs in 1994, there wasn't the internet in my house. There wasn't Drug Inc. on Discovery Channel or whatever that was educating you about how these drugs are made, who's making it across the seas, like what kid is doing it. And I mean, just like, you know, and then the chemicals that are in it, like the crazy products that you're putting into your body willingly and like trusting that this drug dealer did it the right way. I mean, the whole thing is crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like if I had a greater understanding of that going into it as a 14-year-old kid, maybe I wouldn't have taken that cap full of GHB horse tranquilizer or whatever thing, you know? But I didn't know. I was like, hey, everybody's doing it, you know? And so you just do it.
yeah.
So I don't know how much education would make a difference, but I guess a combination of education and then, you know, you were talking about, you know, methadone and treatment centers, and then, you know, social workers or care workers are able to like work with you through your stuff. And that seems like what it takes. Actually, why don't you, I mean, so this is something you're actively involved in. How effective is the treatment process for people?
Well, there's a lot of variations depending on, you know, what type of treatment.
Sure.
I mean, overall, it's less than 50%. I don't know exact figure, but
No.
it's not that successful.
Well,
But,
less than 50%, like 45% maybe?
yeah, I would say 30 to 40 or something like that.
Not terrible.
Yeah, and
Pretty.
I could be wrong about that figure, but I do know that it is a very complex problem, and everybody's different, and they need to be treated differently. And a lot of times, people go to treatment before they're actually ready to get sober, or before they're ready to address the problem. And then some people go to treatment that, you know, they may just be struggling with other mental illnesses, and they're self-medicating with substances. So it's a very complex issue. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're going to have all kinds of people that come in and yeah, maybe they have mental problems and maybe they don't have an alcohol problem. Maybe you fix your mental problem, then the alcohol goes away. And so, yeah, I can see that can be a little bit complicated. Let me ask you this question then, like, what advice do you give to people who are, I don't know, maybe they have their own concerns or they don't know, you know, a good path forward. I mean, there's a lot of good information on how to do drugs and a lot of places to get them, but I'm genuinely curious to have this conversation with you because it's an area that while I drink a lot, I know a lot of people that drink or whatever. It's like, I don't know much about when do you know if you have a problem? What do you do if you do have a problem? I mean, just some like basic information. Like, I don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, so advice, I guess, would be what I tell people that are struggling or that have questions or concerns about their own path is I talk about when you're having fun, can you control it? And when you control it, are you having fun? I ask them that question. And then I also show them a list of, they call them spiritual bedevilments, but it's describing a spiritual malady. So like basically an illness of the spirit. That's the third part of alcoholism. It's where you feel useless to others and that you're depressed. It's basically depression in a nutshell, based on how you view yourself in the world. Do you think of yourself highly? Yeah, there's a list of spiritual bedevilments, and I ask, are you feeling any of these? And if they say yes, then I say you may be struggling with alcoholism, and you may have to come to a meeting. And I offer to take somebody to a meeting if they're the same sex, and if they're a woman, then I put them in touch with a woman in recovery.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's like a policy for the program, or is that just your own personal policy?
It's very common knowledge. I'm sure there's bad apples that abuse it, but no, that's common knowledge.
Yeah,
for sure.
You don't want to take advantage. I mean, someone going through that is probably in a vulnerable position.
Yeah, and then anybody trying to do that is a sick person for sure. So you shouldn't be asking them for advice in the first place.
Good point.
Yeah.
What has your recovery been like? I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but like, after you get out of the treatment center in your home, like, has it been pretty easy for you to stay sober, or was it like harder in the beginning and now you've built up some good resistance or whatnot?
To be fair, I've had a really easy sobriety. I've had my family's full and utmost support. My grandma is over 40 years sober, so she kind of blazed the trail in our family with recovery. I listen really well. I have a sponsor that I love dearly, and I respect him, and he calls me on my shit, and I listen to him. So
Even to this day, he's calling you on your shit?
Yeah.
What kind of shit would he call you on? What are you doing?
Let's see. Any resentment that I have, he's there to point out my part if it's unclear to me.
So talk to me about this relationship better then. Like, what is that relationship like? Y'all talk once a week? You go to coffee? Like, what is that relationship like?
So at the very beginning, it's very involved. You're meeting in person one time a week, sometimes more depending on how quickly you want to get through the steps. You're going over the step work. And then afterwards, my sponsor lives in Utah, so we talk on the phone weekly. But, my sponsees, I still meet with them. I try to meet with them once a week, but people have busy lives. People have different schedules. People are okay with different setups. So it's, as long as you are communicative and you stick with a plan and uphold your commitments, because that's the biggest thing, is just upholding your commitments. So if you commit to one time a week, then that's what you do.
Yeah, it's easier to feel good about yourself when you make and uphold commitments, right?
Yeah.
It's a little thing. It's like a little thing you can do to just...
It's integrity, man. It's so important, and it's...
Sorry, I didn't catch the word you used, but people that you mentor or...
Oh, sponsees.
Sponsee, yeah.
Yeah, I just have one right now.
Okay, one.
Yeah. I've had multiple over the years. Yeah, quite a few. But yeah, just one right now.
I have to assume that you've had some that haven't towed the line and have had relapses. And
Absolutely.
Is it pretty heartbreaking to... I mean, I would assume as long as they're still coming back and they're working through it. I mean, people make mistakes, but it's like keep coming back. But I also think that I'm guessing some of them are just like, fuck this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. At least for me, I can't speak for everybody, but I know that no person could have gotten me sober. It had to be me. If I know that about myself, then I'm very clear that I'm not the one getting anybody else sober.
Yeah,
It's just me taking them through the work. So if they choose not to do it, of course I'll be sad for the person and wish them luck while they're out there to come back quickly and without too much damage. but no, I don't tend to get too beat up about it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that earlier too. No one can really do it for you, because the doing, at least for me, was in between my ears. I had to decide, and I had to reach rock bottom, and I had to look around and be like, what the fuck are you doing here, man? Like, how did you get here? You take an inventory. You say, with all the opportunities I had in life, with every, with my good family, I had not a perfect life, but every opportunity to exceed. I had a loving family that provided for me and gave me a good home and a stable foundation. I could have done anything I wanted to do. But, I guess since we're talking about it, I think the reason, for me, why I went to drugs is twofold. One, I was rebelling against Mormonism. At a young age, it was like boring. It's like watching paint dry. Just, take someone like me who wants to be wild and free and always on the go and try to stick them in a box for 3 hours a Sunday and I don't know, sing songs and stuff. It's like, and listen to people talk. Like, no, man, it didn't resonate with me. But the other thing that they don't do is they don't educate you. All they teach you is that God is going to punish you if you do X, Y, or Z, but not like, oh, well, there could be health complications. You could get addicted. You could, OD. You could, all these, I didn't know. Yeah. I was completely ignorant to any of that stuff. So, I mean, whenever people started doing it, I'm like, yeah, I mean, they said it was wrong, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems fine. and that was it. It wasn't like this huge rebellion or anything. And I just started having fun. I was like, this is way more fun than, all this other stuff. And that was kind of what it was. I was just kind of enjoying it. But after a while, with anything like that, I think if you keep doing it long enough, it does start to become about the hit or, spending your day I pawn shop guitars so I could go buy drugs and all, I still never got those guitars back. I'm still bitter about it, but those are the things like you start doing. You start prioritizing the drug and the high over the friendships, over having any type of meaningful life. Like, it's like you said, it becomes your identity.
Yep.
But you had said changing habits. Is that right?
Yes.
Hit me with that one again.
This is kind of my own insight. This is not my own experience. So if somebody's looking at a book, it's not going to be anywhere. But alcoholics are creatures of habit. And you're going to either have to build healthy habits or unhealthy habits. And the only difference between a person using and a person in recovery is now you have the choice to choose what habits you fill your day with. And hopefully you fill the majority with healthy habits that are service to others. Yeah, that's really all recovery is you get to choose the habits that you build.
Yeah, that one stood out to me big time because that's what occurred to me is I'm still an addict. I'm still addicted to bikepacking or addicted to, whatever it is I'm doing. But it's taking those behaviors that you've learned and those things that you know about yourself and applying them in just healthier ways. Like, and you're a great example of that. I don't know how much we've talked about it on air, but like, I mean, you just started bikepacking. You just like all within the last year started like bikepacking and photography. I'll share this one story. Like, so earlier we were talking about photography. I told you what camera I had like a couple cameras back. And I even like said the name wrong. And you're like, oh, that's a 1 3/4 da-da-da-da-da. I don't even know what you said. And I'm like, how do you know that? Like how in a year do you know about some old obscure camera that I butchered the name on and you know more about it than I do,
I am really passionate about the things that light my fire. I don't really know what else. Light my fire's corny.
Come on, baby, light my fire.
That's really corny. Talking about Jim Morrison, and that was his least favorite song.
Was it really?
Yeah, because he didn't write it. But
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but
yeah, the things that you're impassioned about.
Yeah, so I get really obsessed with the things that I'm passionate about, and cycling is one of those things, and photography became one of those things. It's funny because there's a decade in my life where I don't have any pictures taken of me because I didn't like photos, and then I got into taking photos, and for the first time in my life, I found it easy to tell stories because all I had to do was capture something that was cool and then tell, what was going on when I captured that moment. It gave like a vehicle to do that. So yeah, I'm really obsessed about the things that I'm passionate about. But to be fair, you said an Olympus, and it doesn't matter what model it is. An Olympus only makes micro 4/3 sensors. So like it was an easy.
All right. But you still knew that I didn't say. I mean, we were talking about hobbies and how you take those addictive things and point them into different ways and create healthy habits with them, and you seem to have done that pretty well.
I appreciate that.
You're taking your own advice.
Yeah,
it's working.
Yeah,
it seems to. I mean, I don't know your entire life, but you got your stuff together. You had some challenges, were able to work through them and learn and grow from them, and now you have a little bit more purpose.
Yeah.
With your life, which you maybe wouldn't have had that purpose if you didn't go through that. Now you get the opportunity to focus that attention in a meaningful way for a meaningful reason, and you get to use your experiences to the benefit of other people.
Well, I appreciate you for recognizing that. And I know we talked about it a little bit before, but I do think the people with the most troubled past are the most useful to the world and to the society. And I feel like we're at a weird point. I mean, we've always done it, but we're at a weird point where cancel culture, and I'm not saying a lot of people that have been canceled deserved it, but it's really dangerous to only want squeaky clean people in the public eye, and it's impossible. You don't want to ask somebody that's always had a good credit score how to build up credit. You want somebody that's had a shit score that has gotten their credit good.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to. You can imagine, and and you maybe have been in this situation too, where you're addicted to drugs, you're on drugs, and someone's trying to save you, or somebody. It's like you can't get on my level, man.
Yeah.
Like you can't. You don't have what it takes to coach me through this, to understand where I'm coming from, to like talk about this with me. Like you just don't have the experience. Nothing against you. You're trying, whatever. But ideally what you get in that scenario is somebody who's learned from those experiences and now is in a position to educate or help or share, teach, whatever it is. I love it. We're all a little broken. That's the thing. And maybe we're a little broken. We're a little this, we're a little that. We're all different, right? But like nobody's perfect. Nobody gets through this life without experiencing hardship or anxiety and some depression and some of these other things. And so normalizing those things and allowing some space for people to be wrong and to work through being wrong. I'm wrong a lot.
Yeah.
And, it's just, that's the thing is I'm wrong a lot. I've done a lot in my life. I could have done better, but now as a 41-year-old, I have the benefit of all those experiences because I've been able to learn from them and hopefully become a better person as a result.
Absolutely. Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks, dude, man. I appreciate you sharing. It was worth, I know we were kind of chatting while we were riding, but I felt like it was a topic worth, just kind of talking about a little bit more serious setting and not just like while we're riding our bikes. But a lot of people drink, a lot of people do drugs.
Yep.
And I still find myself pretty woefully ignorant to what kind of resources are out there. And so getting to hear your story and learning a little bit from you today, not bikepacking related, but bikepacking has been like a healthy drug that you've poured yourself into. And like I said, we're all people, and everybody listening to this podcast is a person. And I think that there's value in sharing your experience, and hopefully some people can, take something out of that.
I sure hope it provides even one person, with a little bit more knowledge. But I cycling even if it isn't bikepacking related exactly like cycling, I use it very regularly to kind of calm the storm in between my ears for sure. And most of my amends that I make to my wife, I make on the way home from a bike ride, because for the first time in a week, I'm clear, and I realize, oh shit, I was a dick to her the other night. I need to apologize.
Right.
And it's one of the most useful tools and one of the things that I get the most out of. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah. I think a lot of people use the bike as therapy, and it is a great therapeutic tool, but sometimes it's not enough. And sometimes, having a sponsor or having a facility, whatever resources are available. Yeah. And then you come back to the bike.
Yep, absolutely.
Then it's your healthy drug. It is my healthy drug. It's both. That's kind of the interesting thing, is we both have a very similar history with drug abuse and on all this stuff. And like, we both use bikepacking and cycling as a way to just keep everything in check, man. Just, it's a drug. It gives you the endorphins. It, makes you feel good about yourself because you're productive. You did something.
Yep.
And I find that one of the greatest benefits is, like you said, the opportunity to work through, just let your brain free, and the things that should be bothering you are probably going to boil to the surface, right?
Yep.
Like, I don't think you necessarily have to seek them out. If you just go, that thing's going to boil to the surface, and you're going to be able to hopefully work through it, but that time is important, man. That's another thing people don't do, is take the time to do that mental inventory and to spend that time with themselves. That's another thing that we're so inundated, and we're not bored. We're so, there's always stuff to do.
Yeah. Distracted
that we're just not spending enough time, I don't think, thinking about anything. Like, what do we want? Did I like that? Did I act appropriately? Did I treat that person well?
Yeah.
Like, are we spending time thinking about those things? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
long bike rides are great for it.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's just thank you. Like, thank you to my wife for letting me go on this long bike ride. I'll call her even if I haven't done something shitty in that week that I can think of. I'm still calling her saying, "Thank you for letting me, go on this bike ride. I know the weekends are for us, but thank you."
Yeah.
So, yeah, even it's just little stuff like that, feeling gratitude. And there's just something special about how you feel during and after a bike ride.
Yeah, it's the littlest things that make the biggest difference. Cliche, but very true, I think. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be like a big grand thing, and it doesn't even have to be a big bike ride, man. Even the 10-mile ones around the block at night are just clutch to just like snap you out of, man, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
All right, well, I can keep going forever and ever. Let's enjoy the fire, and then we'll pick back up tomorrow on the route and let the people know what we're seeing or something.
All right, sounds good.
All right, man. All right, Maxwell, how are you feeling?
I'm happy to be done. Yeah, I'm a little sun fried, if you can't tell.
Oh man, I was gonna say, this is like when the real endurance effort kicks in. So we just finished day 2 on the ride, and we're sitting in the van in a Sunco parking lot because we wanted some Gatorade badly. So not the most picturesque spot I've ever done ow, I got a cramp. Yeah, this is a fun one when it's like, all right, let's just keep our shit together for 10 more minutes, and then we can wrap this puppy up. So what can we say about day 2? From my perspective, I wanted to kind of just share, what I thought about the route overall, some of my impressions and takeaways from the 2 days. First off, I'd say that, today we did 30 miles, and it was kind of more of the same, but that's a good thing. The whole route was remote. Some of it was gravel, some of it was paved, but all of it primarily was, low trafficked and very beautiful. Like, the thing that I kept coming back to in my mind was just the diversity of everything that you're seeing, from the plants and animals, the lizards that are scurrying around, and I mean all the colors from the wildflowers, and you got rock outcroppings and grass fields and trees, and it's like it's a lot. We saw a lot of wildlife on the route, a lot of snakes, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, I was thinking about it today as we were riding, and like, to me, this route is probably my favorite route in Texas, to do. There's only 4 routes, right? So we got the 2 in Big Bend National Park, and both of those, you're going to need 4 or 5 days to complete them for most people. And you need a day to drive out there. Those are big, adventurous, more expeditions. And then, we have my route that's in Sam Houston National Forest, and your route. And that's what we were kind of talking about earlier is, I mean, it's a great route. There's a lot of people that get a lot of value out of my route, but it's a lot of East Texas piney woods, which is what East Texas is known for. So that's what you're going to get. But out here, it's just like never ending beauty and diversity, and you just never get bored. It's just a feast for your eyes the whole time.
Yeah, the Texas Hill Country, there is something special out here with the diversity and just the different types of terrain, moving from limestone to granite, and like you said, all the different vegetation and wildlife. And yeah, this route definitely has something special on it. And
I just wanted to say that I think you're a little harder on yourself about the amount of pavement that's on the route. So to set the record straight, the pavement that's on the route is very quaint. It's like very like back road, low traffic. We saw hardly any cars that, both days. So yeah. And personally, I don't really care about the surface type as much. It's more about like getting away from cars and people and just being out there in a beautiful place. So, I think everybody can make their own like opinion on what they like to ride. But for me, I don't really give a crap if it's pavement or gravel. It's like, are these great roads that have great scenery and I don't have to worry about getting hit by a car? Sign me up. I'm interested.
Yeah. It is, they're pretty much single lane pavement roads. A little bit wider than one lane for the most part when it is that pavement, but it also makes it more accessible for a lot more riders. We saw Kurt that was riding it yesterday had slicks on, and she was doing just fine except for a couple of the sandy bits, she said. But it does make it a whole lot more accessible for all types of riders.
I was thinking about what other tips from the campsite. I was trying to think of, like if you're a fisherman, there's supposed to be some really good fishing in the Llano River right there. For swimming purposes, we didn't get in because neither of us brought like a change of clothes or anything, but the water looked like, it was deep. It's like we're into summer here, and the Pedernales was really low. We were looking at it the other day, or we saw it the other day, and but the Llano was flowing. It was deep. So I can't speak to how it is all year round, but if you're into fishing and swimming and stuff, it seems like a pretty sweet campsite for that.
Yeah, so Randy Lifesti, the owner of the general store, dumped I think like 1,200 trout in the Llano River for people to fish because he wanted to bring more fishermen to that hole. So yeah, there's great fish there. I'm just not too big of a fisherman.
Yeah, neither one of us are fishermen. So we're. But if you are a fisherman, a person who fishes. Yeah. Any other tips for the route? This is such a straightforward route. It really is. Like, the only other thing that I would say as a consideration, especially since we're recording this, tomorrow's June 1st, right? Something like that. Yep. And some people may be tempted to come out after they hear this episode, which I think is great. But it's really hot, man. Like, we both underestimated the heat. We're both from Texas, or where are you from?
I'm from Texas. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. I just try to do all my riding in the summer before like 9-10ish. So I'll get out early. And so I'm not used to this type of heat. I'm a little fried, but most of today we got overcast. It was right around noon that it really started shining on us again.
Well, it really showcased how impactful the sun is, because the first 20 miles I think was pretty easy going. We might have been a little bit tired, but spirits were high because we had cloud cover. There was a nice breeze. The sun wasn't beating down on us. So Yeah, it was kind of an epic lollygag, as my friend Chris Johnson on Instagram would say. But yeah, as soon as that sun came out, it was like a flip switch. It's like, man, I'm kind of nauseous. My legs are kind of giving out on me. I'm getting a headache, and I forget, even though I've lived here my entire life, I forget every year how hot it gets. So that would be my only caution about this, is be mindful of the heat, and bring extra water. Like, we brought 2 liters, and I think easily 3 or 4 liters would have been fine.
Yep. Yeah. Bring extra water. We did learn from Herman, the owner of Oxford Ranch, if you drop $5-10, probably $5 per vehicle you have there, to use the facilities, they have a shower there. So if you bring an extra change of clothes when you finish the route, you can shower off, which is a nice. You were able to shower off, and that was nice.
Oh, at the camp where you park at,
Yep.
where we left. What's that? That's Oxford, right?
Oxford Ranch. Yep.
Yeah, Oxford Ranch. So, yeah, I wanted to mention that too, is that there's a shower, and I just took advantage of that, and that was, it was hot, so I didn't have a towel or any soap or anything, but I turned it on. It was ice cold water, and so I just rinsed off, and already feeling way better than I was like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. Another tip would be for Life Festi campground, like on the river, the way the route is designed, make sure to ask Bobette or make sure to let her know that you're a bike packer.
Yeah.
Because there's a RV hookups, and then there's also primitive camping that she just expanded on. So if you let her know that you're a bike packer that doesn't need electric hookups or anything for RVs, you'll more than likely be able to find a spot.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to bring it up as well. Like, because of your route, she said that she opened up primitive camping, and she was like, "Y'all don't need anything. It's easy. Just open up some land. Here, I'll mow it for you. Put your tent down. And that's all you need." And I told you I went on that hike or a little walk, and so I walked around. She had mowed, or whoever did it, they mowed a lot, and there's quite a few more picnic tables and a much bigger area than even where we were. So yeah, I think that's important. If you just tell her, hey, we're bike packers, we're going to be riding in. She knows all about what's going on. She knows you, she knows the route, and she knows that we don't need that much. So, yeah, good tip. Bring your camera. The springtime is, here's the thing. You can't put into words nor into a picture just the complexity of seeing cactuses and rocks and trees and flowers, and just it's just a lot, and you kind of have to come and see it for yourself.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ride it in the winter months. Yeah, the majority of the times I've ridden this route were in winter, and it's a different type of beauty. It's not as green and vibrant, but you still get to see the change in topography. You get to see all the loose livestock. It's still an amazing route. And
so do you have more visibility, because some of the foliage is gone and stuff like that? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, so without that to distract you, you can focus more on the topography, like you were saying. Maybe you see more wildlife and stuff like that.
Yeah, not as many snakes. So if you're a snake lover, definitely do it in the springtime.
Yeah, I was in heaven with the snakes. I picked up one or just one. Yeah. There was a big one that I couldn't quite get up on fast enough.
I'm curious to send that picture to see what type.
Yeah.
I've never seen one like that before.
I am too. Well, good job, man. Seriously, dude, my girlfriend came out and did it solo and just wouldn't shut up in a good way about how awesome it was. As soon as I got done, sent her a message. I was like, hey, just finished the route. And she's like, isn't it the best thing ever? ! I'm like, yeah, it's really great. It's, it's just a good, clean route. The campsite was wonderful. The host was wonderful. It has amazing freaking burgers at the general store. You got a river that you can swim in or fish in. And it's, 10 out of 10. It got it all.
And if you have, this is one other tip. If you are a bike packer that has a partner that isn't into bike packing, it's a great spot to have your partner meet you at the campground. You can do the bike packing part of it, and then you would meet at the campground.
Yeah.
Or if you just want to do the biking part and meet at the campground, my wife and I have done that too. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah, always. That's always a good option for couples that don't bike pack together but like to camp together. It's like, hey, I'll meet you there.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's all it's like. Then there's a car if something goes wrong.
Yep,
thunderstorm
exactly.
comes in or whatever. So. Well, anyway, thank you, man. I think it shows that, you picked up this about a year ago and picked up a camera and just it was something you wanted to do, and it really just speaks to like anybody can do this and create a lot of value for the community. So appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Well, I'm not letting you go that quick.
All right.
I got one more. So I'm curious. I mean, I know you well enough to know you're a very driven person. I mean, I can tell you're hyper focused. You love this stuff. I don't think this is the last route you're going to create. I mean, do you have some other ideas that you're kicking around, maybe for routes or other things, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about it earlier. I don't know if the riding recording picked it up, but I do want to put out a route near Palmetto State Park. I know there's a ton of gravel routes out there already, so it's nothing too new. But there is a cool route going from Lockhart to Palmetto State Park that I'm interested in putting out, as well as a bike rafting trip down in the Devil's River. I've gone down to the Devil's River quite a lot with a buddy of mine who has a lease down there, and it's just the most pristine river in Texas. And when I saw everybody in their bike rafting trips, you recently, as well as a couple others out there. There's the guy Steve Doom.
Oh yeah, Fastbender.
Yeah,
their Four Corners bike pack rafting guides or whatever.
Yeah, and I see them doing these amazing journeys through Utah and Arizona's like high desert, through those red canyons, and I'm like, man, that'd be cool to highlight the Devil's River. And the terrain down there is really cool. Jeep road double track that even four-wheel drive cars have a hard time getting up and down. So I thought it'd be fun to try to bike that down, and then because there's a ton of paddlers along the river too. So if anything goes south, at least you know that there's marshals out there to look after you. But
well, if you're bike pack rafting, couldn't you or bike rafting, couldn't you just let's say your bike broke, you just hop in the river?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's kind of I've thought about that before. If something goes wrong, it's like, oh, just hop on the. I mean, we did it in Arkansas, right? We were like, it just took too long. We were just running out of time. It was cold and wet. We were like, let's just get back on the bikes and be back at our cars in an hour.
Yeah, and the only thing that worries me is from the north. There's a lot of private property down there. I mean, because we're in Texas, obviously, but there's a north portion of the Devil's River natural area that's public land that the public can access, and then 20 miles down the river there's a southern section of public land, and so you would have to make it that whole stretch of river, or else you wouldn't be able to get out on the land unless.
Do you know how many miles it is?
20 miles.
That's not bad.
Mm-mm.
I would think that's about perfect in my estimation. I like to do 8 to 10, maybe 12, average of 10 miles a day,
and that
seems about right.
And they have 3 primitive campsites along the river for paddlers.
Oh, wow. And then obviously you don't have to use the campsites.
Mm-hmm.
I would think, unless that's different there.
You can camp on islands in the riverbank, but
and sandbanks too.
Yeah, but
or sandbars or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but all the inland properties is all private.
Right. As soon as you get off that sandbar, that's a no-no. But yeah, if the water's low and all, I'm not too expert, but yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of how it goes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I don't want to put too much misinformation out there. A little bit of misinformation's okay.
Yeah.
A little misinformation leads to a good time. A lot of misinformation leads to a gun in your face.
Yeah.
Hey boy, what you doing on my property?
Yeah, I wouldn't test it out there with private property.
And dude, our hands are so fried.
Yeah.
Dude, you look like a lobster.
Yeah, but only on the hands.
Yeah. No, you did pretty good other than on the hands. All right, buddy. Well, anything else? I think we covered most of it.
I think so.
Where can people find more information about the route? And also, if they have questions and stuff about the route, are you cool with people reaching out to you and talking
absolutely.
to you about it?
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about how people can find that or find you?
Yeah. So MT Johnston 8 is my Instagram handle. I don't have too many followers. I don't get too many messages. So yeah, I won't get lost in the mix. So yeah, I love when people have reached out so far and said that they enjoyed the route or asked me questions about it. So feel free to contact me through Instagram as well as email at maxwell.t.johnston@gmail.com. I'm pretty quick with my emails. But yeah, I would love to answer any questions. I tried to do the best that I could when it came to all the must-know highlight information. And
it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I think we covered even more.
I think so. It's like
podcast.
the dogs. We didn't know about the dogs. That information wasn't provided on bikepacking.com. Yeah, so I don't know if we ever said it, but the route is published on bikepacking.com. It's called the Texas Hill Country Loop. And I just go to the search engine. I type in Texas. There's only 4 routes, so it's like pretty easy to find.
Yeah,
it's the one with the really, well, there's a lot of good pictures on there, but yeah. All right, buddy. Sounds good. Well, thanks for showing me the route and the extra bonus 4 miles. I liked all of it.
Yeah, of course. That was free. That was pro bono.
Yeah, man. And appreciate you sharing some of your personal history and stuff, man. It's getting nice to know you on that level too. And yeah, I'm happy to see you doing something productive with your life. I was worried about you there for a little while.
Yeah, I think I turned it around.
Yeah, you're doing all right.
Yeah, I'm doing okay.
All right, buddy.
All right.
All right. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. And thanks to Maxwell Johnston for showing me around and being such an awesome dude, great member of the bikepacking community. And it just shows that you don't have to be like an OG bikepacker or anything like that to contribute. And I really liked his idea and his perspective about, people who are, beginners probably can relate better to people who are beginners and stuff like that. So yeah, I think we said it enough on this episode, but don't forget your water on this route. That's all I'm going to say. But you should 100% go ride it and shoot me a message. Let me know what you think. But I know you're going to love it. All right, a little housekeeping real quick from the Bikes for Death store. We've got some new pennants. Pennants are flags. You hang them in their house. You can hang them in your garage, your bedroom, whatever you want. They're pretty radical. So anyway, go in and scoop one up if you dare before they're all gone. And one other item, I have it on good authority that the titanium flask will be in stock either today or tomorrow. Be on the lookout. I always announce it on Instagram, and a great way to stay up to date with stuff like that is also our newsletter. So you can look for a link on how to sign up at bikesfordeath.com. And also that's a great place to go shopping for all your Bikes for Death merch. Just saying. Okie dokie, everybody. I think that's it for today's episode. I hope y'all are enjoying watching the Tour Divide. It's great seeing those dots go down a map. Looks like we got a nice little race going on between Brendan and Jay Peterberry. Brendan's been keeping him at bay, not by much, but he's been able to maintain a nice, I've seen it as low as 8 miles up to 25 miles. But anyway, great little race going on there at the beginning. So hopefully everybody's enjoying some dot watching and you're able to get out and go ride, even though it is hot as fuck in Texas right now. I'll tell you that. All right. Well, if you don't follow my social media, you probably don't know that I just got back from another podcasting trip to Stillwater, Oklahoma. You may recall that I was just there 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I had such a good time and it was a really great vibe, and I just wanted to go back. So I really wanted to go and talk to Bobby Wintle. That was the big one. I've been wanting to talk to him for a while. He was super stoked on the interview that I did with Dr. Seth Wood. And so I was like, do you want to go? And he said 1,000%. So you know what? When the iron's hot, you strike. And yeah, we struck hard. I shouldn't say we struck hard. We didn't strike out, but we went hard. We recorded 4 hours. It's just Bobby. This podcast is going to give people an opportunity to really get to know who Bobby Wintle is, and I'm really excited about it. So anyway, that is coming up next week. And also while I was there, like I said earlier in the podcast, I did a Facebook Live with Dr. Seth Wood. That's for the patron-only podcast, The After Party. And obviously, if you're a patron, go check that out. And if you're not, and you'd like to, you can find out more information at patreon.com/bikes-or-death. Thank you for your consideration. All right, everybody. From me and the entire Bikes for Death family, thank you for listening. Now go ride your damn bike.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including holding that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf.